My name is Edith Fuentes, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have 4 cases today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Let me just quickly go through our hearing procedure. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. 1. That the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. 2. That there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. 3. That the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. Also, under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. 1, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. 2, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. 3, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. And 4, that adequate public and private facilities will be provided for the use. For applications involving the sale, serving, or consumption of alcoholic beverages, there are also 5 additional criteria that shall be considered in making the findings. For parking reduction permit, application shall also meet the procedures and criteria set forth in Section 30.32070, and Table A and Table B. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the zoning administrator can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read the description of the application or the request, and then read reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief presentation or overview of the case and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and any interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak. Again, clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission. There are instances when a case is clear, straightforward, and easy, and the hearing officer may be able to make a determination right here at the public hearing. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. I would like to emphasize that the date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from our Building and Safety Section, Permit Services Center, located on the same floor of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of these speaker forms, which have been provided by the front door, and submit it to our assistant. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the zoning administrator's hearing are recorded on tape as part of public record. Our first case was continued from the December 9 public hearing. This is Conditional Use Permit 2009-003, Parking Reduction Permit 2009-001, and Parking Use Permit 2009-004. Location is 811 East Colorado Street. Applicant is Jeff Seymour, care of Seymour Consulting Group. Property owner is Avetis Keshishian, and the case planner is Dennis Joe. This is an application for a conditional use permit to allow on-site sale, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and to allow for a banquet hall at an existing 4,058 square foot full-service restaurant building. This is also an application for a parking reduction permit to reduce the number of required parking spaces, 4 single and 40 tandem spaces proposed, and 60 single spaces required during the afternoon hours for a proposed banquet hall. Also an application for a parking use permit to allow the proposed banquet hall to utilize parking spaces on a nearby lot, which is an existing car wash located at 725 East Colorado. And the property is located at 811 East Colorado Street in the C3 Commercial Service Zone, described as lots 9 through 11, Block 4, Glendale Orange Grove Tract, and 725 East Colorado Street, described as lots 35 through 38, Block 3, in the C3 Commercial Service Zone, Glendale Orange Grove Tract. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments. And I'm assuming, Dennis, the comments will be applicable for all the 3 cases?
That's correct.
Okay. So, okay, I have 4 signed petitions for the application. Basically stating that they have no issues or concerns with the conduct of the business and have not had any issues in the past. And the management has been considerate to us. So I'll take that these 4 comments are in support of the application. From Integrated Waste, just to make sure that the applicant comply with the number of recycling containers to account for increase in recyclable bottles and to dispose of properly. So if you have any questions, you may call Integrated Waste. From Traffic and Transportation, they have recommendation that events occurring before 6 p.m., I think this is on weekends, be limited in attendance to 60% of capacity. From Police Department, facility must adhere to the city's clean air and noise ordinances, and they have suggested conditions as far as all doors remaining closed during operation, self-closing doors, patrons not be allowed to use the rear door, cleanups, and parking lot shall be monitored by at least one licensed security officer during hours of operation. And an email suggesting to remove suggested condition about rentals and events ending at midnight. Okay. From Fire Prevention, since they think this is a change of use, you're going to have to discuss installation of and modification of fire sprinkler system and assembly permit. Okay. Staff report, Mr. Dennis Joe.
Thank you. Good morning, Zoning Administrator. To continue about this application, description of the property, the general plan of this property is commercial community service, and the zone is C3, which is commercial services. The subject site is a corner lot, approximately 19,329 square feet. It has been improved with a one-story restaurant building approximately 4,058 square feet and was built in 1965. For the past 16 years, the site has operated as a banquet/banquet hall with alcoholic beverage services. Although the previous entitlements for the subject business were to permit dancing at an existing restaurant, banquet hall services had been provided at this location for the past, once again, 16 years prior to any codified definition of a banquet hall. There's a total of 28 parking spaces which exist on the site, which may be entered from East Colorado Street and Everett Street. There is an unpermitted 128 square foot attached storage unit that exists along the north elevation. Staff will recommend that or require that a building permit shall be submitted for this storage unit. The existing full-service restaurant/banquet hall's operations are currently 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday, And although the staff report states 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Friday through Saturday, for the record, the applicant is proposing the hours to be 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Friday through Sunday, not Saturday as indicated on the staff report. To address the Sunday hours, staff has concerns in regards to closing hours on this day only because there's a multifamily residence to the north, and the following day is a work and school day. On Mondays, it is closed except for holidays and special events. The special events hours of operation are 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Thursday. Because there are three requests, staff would like to reiterate the three requests, one being the conditional use permit, which is to allow the on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages, and to allow a banquet hall in an existing 4,058 square foot full-service restaurant within the C3 zone. The second request is a parking reduction permit, which is to allow to reduce the number of required spaces for during the afternoon hours for the proposed banquet hall within the existing 4,058 square foot full-service restaurant within the C3 zone. And the last one is to allow a proposed banquet hall to utilize parking spaces on the nearby lot identified as 725 East Colorado to provide the code required amount of off-street parking spaces during the evening hours. Staff's analysis for the conditional use permit is that the city record indicates the subject site has been utilized as a restaurant with on-site alcoholic beverage services, sales, service, and consumption since 1967. And once again, although the previous entitlements were to permit public dancing at this restaurant, banquet hall services have been provided at this location for the past 16 years prior to any codified definition of a banquet hall in the zoning code. The police department has indicated the census tract for this address has 2 alcoholic beverage licenses. 7 would be permitted. The crime for the census tract is 10% below the city average. There have been a total 11 requests for services by to the police department from the adjacent multifamily residents in regards to odor and noise resulting from the exterior doors facing the multifamily residence being open during its operation. The primary disturbances have been the music emanating and the doors being open from the kitchen noises and music and maybe the patrons deriving from the east-facing and the north-facing exterior doors. Additional concerns included post-event noises by patrons remaining in the parking lot and employees cleaning up in the parking lot, such as debris and bottles during the the early morning hours. Conditions have been included in staff's recommendations to mitigate these reported concerns. The subject site is configured with is configured and permitted with a legally non-conforming amount of 28 parking spaces. By today's current zoning code requirement for a full-service restaurant, it would be 40. Thereby, the site has an amount of 12 legally non-conforming amount of 12 fewer parking spaces than would be required today. The required ratio for the banquet hall is 28.6 spaces per 1,000 square feet. Although the total building floor area for the property is 4,058 square feet, only the areas that are accessible and usable by the patrons are being calculated, and which the area would be 2,520 square feet. Thereby, the banquet hall would require 72 spaces. However, because there is a legal non-conforming amount of 12 fewer spaces, the zoning code does not require these deficient parking spaces to be provided in the change of use. Therefore, the banquet hall would require a total of 60 spaces. Currently, there's a valet company that provides valet services at the site. The applicant has indicated that the valet services will continue during all operation hours. The existing parking lot will not be modified, nor will the striping will be changed. The parking configuration will be maximized by stacking the vehicles over the existing painted parking stripes. There are there are two concurrent applications. The parking use permit and the parking reduction permit will be have been filed with this application. So with approval of these concurrent applications, adequate parking will be provided. Because the business has been in operation for 16 years and conditions suggested by the police department have been included staff recommendation, less than significant impacts are anticipated. Various city departments have been notified of these applications. No concerns have been raised by the nature of this application request on these surrounding land uses. Overall, the application to continue this banquet hall with on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages is a request that appears supportable based upon the facts of this application and the applicant's findings. Under the staff's analysis on the second application was the parking reduction permit. The applicant requests to reduce the amount of off-street parking spaces for the banquet hall during the afternoon hours of operation. The required amount of parking spaces is once again 60 spaces. Although the site is configured with 28 parking spaces, the parking configuration will be maximized by stacking the vehicles over the existing painted stripes, which there will be 40 tandem spaces and 4 single spaces. The applicant argues that the actual afternoon parking demand for the existing banquet hall is less than 60 during the afternoon hours for the reason that afternoon events held at this location generally have significantly fewer patrons than the evening events. The operational hours demand for the existing banquet hall is less than the code requires, only for the afternoon hours. Due to any absence of reported afternoon parking impacts, it is believed the request to reduce the required amount of parking spaces will not be detrimental in the immediate vicinity. The applicant is proposing to continue the valet services to increase the capacity and to allow the site to continue continue as the existing active use. Since the existing parking lot will not be modified and the parking spaces will remain, future potential uses on the site will be unaffected. Since there's a lack of complaints reported by the public, it is not anticipated detrimental effects will derive from the request for the reduced amount of parking spaces during the afternoon hours. And the last and final one for the parking use permit, the applicant is proposing to provide the additional required 20 spaces on the adjacent lot, which is identified as 725 East Colorado, which is across Everett Street, which is a car wash, is located 60 linear feet across Everett and is west of the subject property. The operating hours of the car wash is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday. Since the parking reduction permit has been filed to stack the vehicle, to valet stack the vehicles at the subject site during the afternoon hours, and the car wash closes at 6 p.m., the hours of parking demand for the two businesses are reciprocal. The parking spaces at the car wash provide an excess of parking spaces at the subject site, which the subject site cannot facilitate during the evening hours. It is not anticipated the excess traffic will result from this request. The vehicle entries on both sides primarily are directed towards East Colorado Street, and it is not anticipated that any negative impacts to the adjacent multifamily residents will occur. And also on the car wash's site is not proposed to be modified and will maintain its current configuration. Staff recommendation is recommended approval for the request for all three, the conditional use permit, the parking reduction permit, and the parking use permit, with the following conditions: that the exterior doors shall remain closed during events to minimize any noise impacts to the adjacent uses, that all exterior doors facing the interior property lines shall be installed with self-closing doors and to be maintained in working order. Additionally, the patrons shall exit the main entrance facing East Colorado Street and shall not utilize the exterior doors facing the interior yards other than in emergency situations. The outdoor cleanup events and trash disposal shall not occur during the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Both parking lots on 811 East Colorado and 725 East Colorado shall be monitored by at least one licensed security officer during all hours of operation. And the last condition is that the unpermitted attached 128 square foot storage room shall obtain a building permit or be removed. Inquiries have been received by the public, one from Ms. Taylor in regards to staff's analysis on how it was calculated in the parking. Additionally, inquiries have been received via telephone from adjacent multifamily uses to the north in regards to reiterating their concerns in regards to noise, parking, and security. This concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is present, and we're both here
You
available.
still want to talk? The storage that we're talking about, is that the one at the back right there? This area here? That the 100 something?
Correct. The applicant has modified plans that this 128 square foot storage will be.
That's the one. Right there.
Correct.
Because
It's this
there's
one
still
right here.
this one and that.
Oh, that's correct. This is one.
So
right
it's
here.
that one.
Yes.
Let me bubble that so I know exactly. Okay. He already did everything for you, so I know. Okay, to present the case, Mr. Jeff Seymour.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Zoning Administrator, good to see you again.
Same here.
I am, for the record, Jeff Seymour, Seymour Consulting Group, 2815 Townsgate Road, Westlake Village, representing the Marquee Restaurant and Banquet Hall, owned by Mr. Avidas Kashishian. I am pleased to be here, Madam Zoning Administrator, to provide some additional information. Since 1983, the Marquee has been an outstanding addition to the city of Glendale. We are here today to provide additional information on our request. And usually, as you would remember, I would come in and give a full and very lengthy discussion and history. Mr. Joe has done an outstanding job, and he has been very helpful to us, and we appreciate staff's assistance throughout this process. There are a few things, though, that I would like to put into the record, if I may. The first deals with the Sunday opening. We are requesting, Madam Zoning Administrator, allowance to operate on Sundays from 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. That is not a new request. For the past 16 years, Marquee has actually had those hours of operation on Sunday. We are very much in support of the conditions set forth, and I'll go into that in a few moments. But we do want to have the opportunity to continue to do the kind of outstanding operation that we do on Sundays. So that was actually requested under our request in our applications, and again, we want to reiterate the wish to continue Sunday operation. I want to, for just a moment, mention proactively rather than reactively our support of the conditions that have been set forth in each of the discretionary requests that we've made. We have heard the concerns in relation to trash pickup and odors, smoking outdoors, the noise issue, and security. And we want to strongly alert you and city that we support the conditions that have been set forth and recommended by the city and by the police department and other agencies, and that Mr. Joe has actually placed in his record. I will, if you wish, speak in response to each of the conditions or findings, if you wish me to do that. There are a number of findings.
I know. If you concur or agree with the findings and the analysis that the staff did, you don't have to repeat.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Let me say for the
Otherwise-
record. Let me say for the record that we do, in fact, support the findings. that have been set forth both in our application and have been noted herewith in the findings set forth in staff's report. And that, again, we also support those conditions that have been set forth in recommendations for this approval. And one other point I did want to make. There hadn't actually been questions, but I do want to, for the record, I want to also mention in relation to the parking reduction permit, there was a detailed parking use analysis that is in the record, which clearly shows the reduction of parking in the afternoon hours make a great deal of sense. We will continue to have valet service. We will continue to abide by all of the other conditions, but I did want to make mention of that.
Mm-hmm. Quick question as far as the storage is concerned.
Yes.
Is that something you're going to take care of
We will.
with this, or it's going to be a separate application?
I believe it's a separate requirement set forth in conditions of approval, and
I wanted to make sure it's not going to trigger any other parking reduction, since it's going to be an additional.
Because banquet halls are only parked by active spaces or floor area that can be utilized by patrons, this is not anticipated, and it's only going to be accessed from the outside.
Okay, I want to make sure it's clear, because anyone watching may say you need additional parking again. Okay.
And we concur. We also are aware of the situation with regard to the building.
I'm just asking them if they would like to say something. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition to this application? Seeing none, do you have any closing comments, Dennis?
Staff has none.
Okay. Mr. Seymour, any closing comments? Okay, and I concur with the staff's findings, recommendations, analysis, so I'm going to go ahead and approve the 3 applications today, and we will be issuing the letters by tomorrow or the following day. So, all taken under approval. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Our next case is 801 South Brand Boulevard. Applicant is Alexis Reward of Flex Design Inc. Owner is UCN Partners. Mike Sage of Nissan, and case planner is Chris Baxter. This is an application for a conditional use permit for an existing parking lot in the CAO zone and the OPS AAU overlay zone located at 801 South Brown Boulevard in the CAO commercial auto office and office parking structure, all auto use overlay zones, described as lots 3, 4, 37, and 38, track number 393. And let me just quickly go through the comments. Okay, no major issues or concerns from other departments. To present the case, Mr. Baxter.
Hello, Ms. Fuentes.
Morning.
All right, we have here the exhibits right here in this middle section, very brief exhibits. This is a renewal of a conditional use permit. It has expired, but it's basically asking for the same thing that was approved before. I'd like to go through my staff report very briefly because there's not a whole lot to discuss. We're talking about a project from the pointer up, this area right here. And I'll go into a little description here at the end. So the first thing is, very briefly, this area is, as you can see in this sort of a zoning map that we have, is known as the South Brand Boulevard Specific Plan, which purpose was to provide areas for dealerships, and they have rules and regulations relating dealerships, including parking lots and parking structures. And if you want to put a parking lot or parking structure in this particular zone, you need a conditional use permit, and that's why we're here. And we generally have expiration dates every so many years so that the city is able to go back and look at these and say, are they still meeting what they're supposed to be meeting back at the time that they made the request to have a parking lot. These two lots here, a quick little history. These two lots here received a conditional use permit at one time to be a parking lot individually from these. This was a dealership. We have records in our use and occupancy since 1967 showing it was some type of a dealership related. These were houses, and then they became, in 2002, they became parking lots. Then the project just previous to this that you heard, granted in 2004, combined these four lots right here and made it one unified parking lot. And they've been operating as such ever since. Now, this area down here at just below them, but looks like it's connected, these parking lots here, there was a CUP for these two, and then there was a CUP for this. And they were all about the same period of time done, and they're all under the same ownership. And when I was initially working with the applicant, I went back and I looked at our records in the files, and it said that these were going to expire as well as these up here, and I thought they needed to submit an application for all of them. And the applicant said, well, why can't we just do one big application? I said, fine. Then as I was writing my staff report and doing research, I found out that the Infinity dealership, which we can see, as you recall, the Infinity dealership was being constructed over here.
Yes.
Well, they were short 34 parking spaces, it turned out. So the applicant said, well, we have parking right across the street because we own this as well. And so over here, what they have is, you can see here, and they've made a nice detail showing, here's their 34 parking spaces. So the one driveway into here unifies what was those two different CUPs, and they are now tied to the Infinity dealership across the street, and there's no
Is
expiration.
there a covenant? Or?
That's what we're still working on.
Okay.
They need to come up with the covenant and that affidavit. Those are the two things,
Right.
and I've been working with the applicants to solve that and the city engineer's office
Okay.
too. But yes, so there was a conditional use permit and a parking use permit for the Infinity dealership, which is located across the street. So these, all of a sudden, we needed to pull them out of our CUP, and the only one we're left with is this one right here, because this one is now tied to the property across the street, separate from their previous approvals. Then finally, my recommendations that I have for these conditions, I basically cut and pasted the ones you had before. There's very little change.
I remember hearing this case back
Yeah.
in 2004.
Right.
Yeah.
So with very little change. You know, they had, one of the things that made it a little different is they have these little monuments here and with the platform so that they can display a vehicle. And these are not required parking up here. This is to show display parking or storage parking. These, a portion of them are required parking. But again, those are tied across the street, and they're not being reviewed today because they already have approvals. And that pretty much wraps up my presentation. I can answer questions.
So the conditional use permit today is for the parking lot use?
Yes,
Or-
ma'am.
Okay.
In the CAO zone, they require, if they want to do a surface parking lot, they require a CUP. It's just part of the requirements.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have an expiration date. And so if you have an expiration date, now we're back to review it again to make sure that they're going to comply with our requirements. And at this point, it appears that they,
Okay, good. Thank
and
you.
we do have the applicant and the property owner here as well.
Okay.
The applicant is the architect.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Alexis Raworth.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Alexis Roworth with Flex Designs. I'm the architect on the project, although in this case, we're not actually constructing anything as part of this application. It is a renewal, continued use. The primary use of the lot, just to be clear, is it's actually vehicle storage and vehicle display. So it's actually generating much less traffic than if it were, a public parking lot or a parking lot for any other use. The lot has actually been used this way since the 90s, and continuously so. Since this CUP was approved in 2004, there have been no complaints, no issues with the police department, no neighbor complaints that we're aware of. Obviously, this lot is part of the image for the owner and for the business, and so it's in their interest to maintain it properly, and they have been doing so. We can go through the specific findings if you want. There is continuous illumination all around the lot. We have perimeter plantings and foliage, as well as two larger sort of planting areas on the lot at the rear edge, which total about 5% of the lot area as per requirements.
You read the report, findings, and analysis of the staff
We have.
and the conditions?
Yes, we have, and the owner has reviewed the recommendations, and we have no issue with any of them.
You agree with, okay.
Yes, we do. Although we would like to request that the period for which the new CUP is valid is actually increased to 10 years from 7. Simply
I
based-
will look into that. Okay. Okay. Chris,
Yes, ma'am.
you heard what she said
Yes.
about 7 years versus 10 years. Do you have any?
No, I really don't. I think there's no issue because it's not required parking.
Yeah.
The one across the street, though, I know it's not part of this, but the one across the street, we need to take care of that covenant thing. And I'd like to talk to you about it.
We are actively working on that, and in fact,
Okay.
I spoke to Mike Matthias yesterday.
Very good, ma'am.
There was a delay in getting some of the titles, reports that he needed and stuff.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition? Closing comments?
No, ma'am, I have no closing comments at this time.
Closing comments? Very good. Well, with that, I can go ahead and approve this application today, and we're going to make it 10 years instead of 7 years. And based on staff's analysis, findings, and recommendation, then this case is approved, and we'll issue the letter within 2 days. Thank you very much for coming. Our next case is CUP 2009-018. Location is 1000 East Broadway. Applicant is Janelle Williams. This is the Van Bakery and Restaurant. Property owner is Sarkis Bergudian, and the case planner is Gabe Riza. An application for a conditional use permit for the on-site sale, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages at a full-service restaurant located at 1000 East Broadway in the C3 Commercial Service Zone, described as portion of Lot 8, Max Muir Tract. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments. From Integrated Waste, just making sure you have enough sufficient trash and recycling containers to handle the expected increase. So, other than that, no major issues or concerns from other departments. So, Gabe?
Yes, good morning, Ms. Fuentes.
Good morning.
The applicant's request is to continue the use and sale, service, and on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages at an existing full-service restaurant. The proposal will help sustain a small restaurant serving the Citrus Grove area. A healthy business community well supported by such amenities is in keeping with the city's general plan. The existing restaurant has been in operation since April 2006, and permission to sell alcohol was granted under conditional use permit 10369-CU. The small-scale restaurant and its location in the area make it unlikely that transportation and parking will be a serious issue. Currently, the existing restaurant has an encroachment permit to serve food on the sidewalk sitting area, and if the applicant decides to continue to serve alcohol there, the applicant will be required to renew the encroachment permit through the city's engineering department. The police department has been notified of this matter and has stated no concerns. Overall, staff recommends approval with 2 conditions. To require that a new CUP application if the restaurant wishes to sell alcoholic beverages other than beer and wine. Actually, that is just noted as a mistake in my analysis. The public noticing was for a full Type 47 alcohol
Distilled
license.
spirits.
Distilled spirit. That is correct, not beer and wine, as indicated in my application. But to assure you that the noticing was done for full alcohol. And the second condition, or the only condition actually, is to require the renewal of the conditional permit in 3 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Linton.
Janelle Williams.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Fuentes. My name is Janelle Williams, Williams Land Use Services, office located at 2418 Honolulu Avenue in Montrose. Before I get started, I just have a question as to the renewal, the 3-year renewal, when the prior conditional use permit renewed after 7 years. There have been no police concerns or
Okay.
any reports.
We can talk about that. Go ahead.
We would ask that that condition not be adopted. As far as the recycling, they do have a gentleman that comes by once a week and recycles all of their materials. So I'll just go into the findings then? Okay. How will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan? Alcoholic beverage service in conjunction with the full-service restaurant is their normal business operation, and it's consistent with the commercially designed locations identified in the land use element of the general plan. Anticipates that full-service restaurants, including on-site sales of alcoholic beverages, are appropriate uses in commercial districts such as this. The owners have converted approximately 35% of the previously approved dining area into a bakery. So the actual dining area has decreased in size. The entry to the restaurant and the bakery are separate. You can't get to one from back and forth within the building. You have to go outside. So alcoholic beverage service will be separate from the bakery. The use and its associated structures and facilities have not proven to be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or to the environment. The existing development meets the intent of the zoning ordinance and will not be detrimental to the public safety. Similar uses exist in the area and have not proven to be detrimental. The area is built out with commercial, neighborhood, and pedestrian uses throughout the area. The existing structure and use meet the intent of the zoning ordinance, and we have no reason, with proper city review and the imposition of standard conditions of approval, to expect any detriment to occur with the continued sales of alcoholic beverages at this establishment. The existing use has not adversely affected or conflicted with any adjacent uses, nor impeded the normal development of surrounding property, including the introduction of new uses into the area. The full-service restaurant is well situated with respect to other facilities, has not adversely impacted any existing facilities, any property values, or normal development. The continued service of alcoholic beverages is a convenience to the local patrons and a natural accompaniment to the area. The continued ability to purchase alcoholic beverage with meals is anticipated by patrons. The police record will show there has been no detriment in the past because of it. The structure, the parking, streets, and utilities are all existing and were adequate for the prior and current restaurant operation. Adequate public and private facilities exist. Do you have any questions? Is my abbreviated?
This is the old bakery on the corner of Belmont and Broadway, right? Belmont and
Is it
Broadway.
Yes, yes, it is.
Belmont,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, and as for the outdoor dining,
Yes.
they don't do that anymore. Even though they received an encroachment permit to do that, they were having problems with people coming off the street and just loitering there. So they pulled the tables in, and they don't serve outside anymore.
Are they doing it? Were they doing it along Broadway or?
Yes,
Oh,
it was on Broadway.
Okay, so the only item we don't kind of meet is the renewal period.
I was just wondering what the reason was
Is
for that.
Gabe? Do you have any?
I have no problem, no objection
With 7
for
years?
7 years at all. I believe some of the analysis was the previous plans or the previous application did not have a seating plan. We had no idea of how many occupants were going to occupy that.
Okay.
But given that there is no comments from police,
Right,
neighborhood
right.
services, fire,
And this is a renewal.
renewal,
so 7 years.
7 years, it absolutely seems fair.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition? Seeing none, closing comments? No?
Thank you very much.
Gabe? I'm also very familiar with this bakery, so I'm going to go ahead and approve the case today, give you 7 years for renewal, and thank you very much for
Thank you very
coming.
much.
Our last case is variance 2009-020. Applicant is Garo Nazarian. Property owner is Rafik Kazakian, and the case planner is Gevorg Nazarian. This is an application for a variance to add 202 square feet to the existing single-family house by enclosing the front porch and extending the bathroom at the rear, while maintaining the front setback at 19 feet 8 inches, interior setback at 3 feet, and not providing a fully enclosed parking space, and the minimum required 40% landscaping. Property is located at 3725 Fifth Avenue in the R1 low-density residential zone, described as Lot 297 of Licensed Surveyor's Map Book 14, page 2728. And, oops, where's the page? This one. Excuse me. Okay, I don't see any major concerns or issues, so Geborg, go ahead.
Good morning, Ms. Hunter. Thank you. As you mentioned, last case for this morning is a variance setbacks and standard variance case number PVAR 2009-020 located at 3725 Fifth Avenue. The proposal is to add or legalize the addition of 202 square feet to the existing single-family house, which includes enclosing the front porch and also extending the bathroom at the rear, while maintaining the front setback at 19.8, where 25-foot minimum is required, and the interior setback of 3 feet, where 4 would be required. Also, not providing the second covered and enclosed parking space, and not providing the minimum 40% landscaping, which is required by code. The property is located in the R12 zone, and this project is exempt from CEQA. Staff's analysis recommends denial of this application based on the fact that 3 of the 4 findings cannot be made. First is that even though the majority of the construction takes place under the existing roof line or existing roof, the hardship that is imposed is actually self-inflicted and financial. The second finding that staff could not make was there are no unique circumstances that characterizes this property. Yes, it is a substandard lot, but so are the rest of the lots in this neighborhood. And there's nothing that makes this lot more special than the rest of the lots in the neighborhood. And lastly, granting of the variance will in fact be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance, because the ordinance is to provide minimum landscaping. The intention of the ordinance is also to provide setback and parking standards. In this case, filling the area under the porch will establish additional floor area in the front setback, as well as allowing further construction in the interior setback area. The lot is small and cannot accommodate second covered and enclosed parking space. However, it is also not the intent of the code to allow overbuilding of small properties that cannot meet minimum development standards such as setbacks, landscaping, and parking. Thus, that concludes my presentation, and like I said, based on the fact that 3 of the 4 findings could not be made in positive manner, staff recommends denial of this application. I would also like to add that there is a retaining wall in the front of the property, at the front of the property. Initially, if you look at the site plan as well, it will show to be
Why don't you
inside
come
the
up here
property.
and kind of
course.
walk me through the project? Show me where the what's
But-
really being closed. Okay.
This is where the porch area is. That's being proposed to be enclosed, which is already enclosed, in fact. And also the extension of the bathroom back here, which is a new roof area. This would be under existing. The existing retaining wall at the front, even though it's shown on the site plan to be inside the property, it encroaches in the public right-of-way, and I have worked with the engineer. City engineer has determined that
Okay.
it's encroaching, and a survey map shows that as well. We asked for a survey. But the city engineer has indicated that they will not be required to get an encroachment permit because it has legal non-conforming status. That too.
How high is it?
The wall is not very high. It's about 3 to 4 feet.
And then that whole back shows it to be paved.
Correct. And that is another thing.
That's the reason they exited the landscape.
Yes, the existing is already non-conforming. By doing the addition in the front, they will be forced to move the porch area or the stairs further into the setback, which will take away existing landscaping. Even though the plan shows landscaping to be increased, staff believes that because the rest of the lot will be maintained as pavement, the movement of the encroachment of these stairs and the landing into the setback area will result in fewer landscape area.
How many square feet are we talking about?
Total addition?
Yeah, the total addition.
Total would be 202. Some of it would be in the back, though.
Right.
A small portion of it would be in the back. The front would be under 200 square feet, which will have to be, if approved, will have to go through design process, whether it can be exempt or not. In fact, we'll start looking at it, and the way it is proposed, it probably will not be exemptable.
That's current look, right?
This would be what it used to look like, and the current look is this one right here. It was enclosed, but not finished, obviously. Neighborhood Services went out there, gave them a citation, and they could not finish.
That's the front elevation.
So, yeah, it is being proposed to be a little more different than what's out there now, just for aesthetic purposes. But even though it is different than what's out there now, staff believes that it may not be exemptable if it were to be approved, variance request.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Garo Nazarian?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Aaron Nazarian. The existing property is already a substandard lot improved legally with a single-family residence at a one-car garage. Currently, the existing porch of the existing house has been enclosed within the same roof line, although this has not altered the existing footprint of the house. It's triggered this variance, and even by looking to this code section, when the roof it's supported with a vertical element, a structural element to supporting the roof, if it was overhang, it was just a roof. But when it's supported by the structural element attached to the ground, so that it becomes part of the structure. So the existing front setback, it remains as it is. As you see on the plan, on the pictures, the original pictures, the roof is supported by posts, and we are enclosing that portion, so there is no violation in the setbacks, because the existing structure is setback 19 feet 8 inches from the front property line and 3 feet from the side setback. So there is no violation of the setback there, what I see there. What we request here to maintain the existing front setback, and the original house has developed within 19 feet 8 inch setback. To maintain the existing 3 feet setback, we are not encroaching in the existing setback, we are keeping the same. And to maintain a one-car garage really looking to this is a substandard lot, and I did check the area, mostly majority of the houses in this neighborhood, they have one-car garage, because the lot is only 75 feet deep and 20 feet front setback, 30 feet width, the depth of the house. What it remains in the back, it's only 25 feet. By providing a garage, I can extend the garage toward the up, but there is no backup area. So that is the difficulty, that we cannot provide a two-car garage. It's and we didn't increase the footprint of the house, because it's existing structure. We are working with the same footprint of the house. The use of the property already at the lowest possible density within one single-family residence per lot. Because of the substandard lot of the property and the fact that the house and the garage are already built, it is not possible to increase the setback. Build a second carport or garage. Replace the existing one-car garage with the new two-car garage, it's impossible. There is no change in use or occupancy of the property. This is simply legalize the current improvements into it, including the most recent porch covering. The existing house is already 876 square feet, and we are proposing the addition, it's 202 square feet. This is about 3,750 square feet lot, R1-2 zone, that FAR allowed, it's 40%. But by adding this 200 square feet to the existing house, the total floor area, it becomes 1,076 square feet, which it will be 28% of the lot area. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public in as much as virtual nothing changes in its use or occupancy. Same people living in the house will continue living in the house with a slightly better living facility. There is no change of change of zone or change of use proposed at the current situation. Just we are, and the project, it complies with the general plan. The granting of the variance will be within the objectives of the ordinance. The R1 zone is intended to design for a low-density residential project, which this is a very, for today, lifestyle, 1,000 square feet house is nothing. Just today they are building apartments bigger than the 1,000 square feet. So the objective of the ordinance, in as much as the current use is not being altered, and essentially the current footprint of the house and the garage are identical to the legally built original project, the variants are necessary because of this enclosing of the porch. And I did went to the job site yesterday. I did took a few pictures of that, which you can see on this area. Most of the houses.
This is in the old La Crescenta area, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Two adjacent properties on each side of this subject property, they will have the same setback after this addition. You know, this encroachment, they will have the same setback. The second lot, which has built on the two lots, it's much more back. It's maybe 30 feet back from the 5th Street, but I think that property has access from the 4th Street too. But the remaining houses, they will have the same front setback or even less. And especially across the street of this property, a majority of the buildings, they have less setback. That's what we have today, what we are proposing today. And I did review the conditions and concerns of the departments, which I saw on the fire department comments that we are increasing the hazards, the fire hazard of the building, which I don't agree with that, because right now there is an open roof with no fire rating construction, the existing porch. Now, by enclosing to having a solid wall there, which it will be a stucco, it will protect better the fire hazard from the adjacent property. And the other comment was from the Water and Power Department, that it says most probably temporary power pole we will need it. I don't think so. The property has already, I don't need it. And of course, the Neighborhood Service Center is, talking about these violations. Of course, they did receive this citation. And by having this variance granted, then we have to go for a building permit. In that time, I know that it won't be exempt from the Design Review Board. I have to go to the Design Review Board to satisfy their requirements. I have to get the design approved. Then I will pull all the necessary building permits. If some windows has been changed, I will legalize all that issues. Just I want to furthermore, there is a long history of the similar projects on similar substandard lots being approved by the various processes simply because the city did recognize the unique circumstances and the hardship created by the given situation on lots that at the time of their development were fully legal and necessary to improve quality of the life during the years. Several houses in the area, as I mentioned, have a setback of 20 feet or less. The small improvements have further created a better architectural vision compatible with the neighborhood and have certainly improved the overall aspect of the house.
Okay. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you have anything with us or on file that would show that that porch was originally constructed the way it is?
I will have just the original, the picture. I did research.
Anything just to show me that that's been like that since, when was the house built?
It was built in 1947.
1947. Just I do have the picture of the original house, which it shows the house and the access.
Well, I have that here, but
Yeah, the entrance of the house, it's there, and so they, the porch is part of the original house to give access to the house.
I could do more research here and see if there's
yeah.
anything.
Okay.
If I can find.
Because I just wanted to make sure that that was originally constructed the way it is. Because I understand your argument about the roof being there, columns touching the ground, and so on. So we'll look into that, and
I will do
also I'm
research.
gonna
I
need
can't find-
the information you gave about the additional or similar setback for other properties. All you need to do is give me the address or color them in a map.
Okay,
so that-
then I will,
So you can show me similar instances or conditions. Okay, and yes, these lots have a 75-foot length
Length.
versus the normal 100 feet. Okay,
Oh,
is there?
and-
Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot to show you, the owner tried to contact with he's out of town. His kids, they tried to talk with the neighbors. We did receive
They have petition?
petitions that they support the
Application,
they are-
okay.
yeah.
Okay, just for the record, I have 5 signed petitions, basically in favor of the project and supporting the project. Anything else?
That's it. If
Since
you have
there's nobody
question.
else here to speak in support or in opposition, any closing comments, Mr. Gabor?
Not at this time.
Okay, we'll look into that, those other conditions. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission, and close the public hearing at 10:45 in the morning. Thank you very much for coming.
But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. Well,